So good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 33rd SE Night that SE Thailand and WE4F host this event together with the topic Inclusive Growth, Opportunity, Trend, and Best Practices. Today's event will be bilingual, so please choose the English translation as you prefer because we will have the panel discussion, it will be in Thai, so you can choose English during that time. Moving on, I will introduce our MC and moderator in Thai. And he himself, I believe that he will introduce himself in English as well นะคะก็ก่อนอื่นเลยนะคะเดี๋ยวก่อนที่จะเข้าสู่ช่วงเซสชันนะคะแป้งขออนุญาตแนะนำ MC moderator ของเราอีกท่านนะคะที่มาจากทาง WE4F วันนี้นะคะก็จะพาทุกท่านเข้าสู่เนื้อหานะคะก็คือคุณเบสนะคะคุณเบสรัตนศิริวชิระปัญญานนท์นะคะซึ่งเดี๋ยวขอเล่าเรื่องสั้นๆเกี่ยวกับคุณเบสให้ทุกท่านได้รู้จักก่อนสักเล็กน้อยนะคะคุณเบสเองเนี่ยมีประสบการณ์กว่า10 ปีนะคะในวงการการเงินค่ะเพื่อการเปลี่ยนแปลงสภาพภูมิอากาศพูดง่ายๆก็คือเป็นเรื่องของ climate finance นะคะที่คุณเบสเนี่ยมีความเชี่ยวชาญนะคะแล้วก็มีexpertise ในเรื่องของเทคโนโลยีการจัดการน้ำพลังงานอาหารพลังงานสะอาดนะคะการเกษตรแบบยั่งยืนการวัดผลแล้วก็การประเมินผลลัพธ์ทางสังคมนะคะการบริหารจัดการโครงการความร่วมมือในเอเชียใต้แล้วก็เอเชียตะวันออกเฉียงใต้คุณเบสเองอะค่ะก็ได้ร่วมงานกับองค์กรด้านพลังงานและสะอาดและนวัตกรรมการเกษตรมากว่า10 บริษัทแล้วนะคะก่อนที่คุณเบสจะมาร่วมงานกับทาง WE4F นะคะคุณเบสเองก็เคยดำรงตำแหน่งผู้จัดการประจำประเทศไทยที่ New Energy Nexus นะคะแล้วก็ได้มีส่วนร่วมในการสร้างระบบนิเวศสตาร์ทอัพด้านพลังงานในไทยด้วยนะคะมีหลากหลายโครงการเลยที่คุณเบสรับผิดชอบอยู่ไม่ว่าจะเป็นโครงการ Boot Camp นะคะ Mentorship รวมถึงการสร้างความร่วมมือกับหน่วยงานทั้งภาครัฐภาคเอกชนนักลงทุนองค์กรระหว่างประเทศต่างๆมากมายเพื่อที่จะผลักดันให้เกิดการพัฒนาด้านการใช้พลังงานอย่างมีประสิทธิภาพนะคะแป้งเกริ่นแต่เพียงเท่านี้พอนะคะเดี๋ยวแป้งจะขออนุญาตยกเวทีให้คุณเบสดำเนินรายการเลยนะคะแล้วก็เดี๋ยวตัวแป้งเองก็จะไปอยู่ backstage ด้านหลังที่จะคอยช่วยแปลภาษาให้นะคะยังไงเรียนเชิญคุณเบสได้เลยนะคะขอบพระคุณค่ะ
ได้ขอบคุณครับคุณแป้งครับขอบคุณทุกท่านเช่นเดียวกันนะครับที่มาวันนี้ผมเบสรัตนศิรินะครับเป็นผู้จัดการโครงการWater and Energy for Food นะครับประจำเอเชียใต้และเอเชียตะวันออกเฉียงใต้นะครับอย่างที่หลายท่านคงจะทราบกันแล้วว่าจริงๆแล้วเทรนด์ของการเติบโตโดยที่ไม่ทิ้งใครไว้ข้างหลังในขณะเดียวกันก็ให้ความสำคัญแล้วก็ดูแลด้านทั้งเศรษฐกิจแล้วก็ด้านสิ่งแวดล้อมรวมถึงด้านสังคมด้วยเนี่ยเป็นเทรนด์ที่มาใหม่มากๆนะครับแล้วหลายคนไม่ว่าจะเป็นองค์กรใหญ่ก็ดีหรือองค์กรเล็กก็ดีให้ความสนใจแล้วก็ให้ความสำคัญกันอย่างมากในช่วงหลายๆปีที่ผ่านมานะครับอันนี้แหละก็เป็นโจทย์หลักที่เราจะมานั่งคุยกันในวันนี้และอันนี้เองก็เป็นโจทย์หลักที่ทาง Water and Energy for Food หรือ WE4F กำลังให้ความสำคัญแล้วก็ให้ความสนใจอยู่มี2 ส่วนนะครับอย่างที่คุณแป้งกล่าวไปแล้ววันนี้จะมีส่วนการ present ที่จะมีสัสมิตาแล้วก็มีส่วนของการนั่งชวนพูดคุยกันเพราะฉะนั้นหลังจากจบเซสชันวันนี้ไปแล้วเนี่ยผมว่ามี2 เรื่องที่เราอาจจะอยากให้ทุกคนเก็บกลับบ้านไปเรื่องแรกน่าจะเป็นเรื่องของ inclusive growth ว่าจริงๆแล้วเนี่ยมันคืออะไรเราสนใจอะไรบ้างเราในฐานะธุรกิจควรจะมอง inclusive growth แบบไหนประเด็นที่2ที่อยากจะฝากกลับไปก็คืออาจจะอยากฝากให้เก็บประสบการณ์เราจะไม่ได้คุยด้านที่มันง่ายอย่างเดียวเราจะคุยด้านยากด้วยว่า inclusive growth เนี่ยมันมี challenge อะไรบ้างมันมีปัญหาอะไรบ้างจากคนที่ทำจริงๆจากนวัตกรที่ทำด้าน inclusive growthมาจริงๆเราจะมานั่งคุยกันในวันนี้นี่น่าจะเป็น2 เรื่องที่เราจะพยายามจะทำให้ได้ภายในเซสชัน1 ชั่วโมงครึ่งวันนี้นะครับแล้วแน่นอนครับทาง WE4F เองก็ขอบคุณทาง SE Thailand เช่นเดียวกันนะครับที่มาร่วมจัดงานด้วยกันในครั้งนี้แล้วก็หวังว่าท่านผู้ฟังทุกท่านก็จะได้อะไรกลับไปเช่นเดียวกันดูจากเวลาแล้วผมคิดว่าเราน่าจะเริ่มเข้าเซสชันได้เลยนะครับเซสชันแรกน่าจะเป็นประมาณสัก20 นาทีที่เราจะให้คุณสุสมิตามาwalk through ว่า inclusive growth คืออะไร WE4F ทำอะไรบ้างแล้วก็หลังจากนี้เราจะ collaborate กันยังไงได้ต่อในอนาคตผมสรุปคร่าวๆเกริ่นเข้าเซสชันนี้ก็คือ WE4F เนี่ยเราอยู่ในทั้งหมด15 ประเทศในเอเชียใต้และเอเชียตะวันออกเฉียงใต้รวมถึงในประเทศไทยด้วยนะครับที่สำคัญคือตอนนี้เรากำลังพยายามจะหานวัตกรหาสตาร์ทอัพหรือหาคนที่เป็นผู้จัดการทำ SE หรือ Social Enterprise ที่อยู่ในประเทศไทยที่จะมาร่วมโครงการกับเราถามว่าร่วมเราได้อะไรบ้างน่าจะมี2 ส่วนหลักที่เราน่าจะสามารถให้ได้นะครับ ประเด็นแรกก็คือเรื่องของการมีเงินเป็นเงินให้เปล่าเลยสำหรับคนที่เป็นนวัตกรที่ทำด้าน social enterprise หรือด้านกิจการเพื่อสังคมและเพื่อสิ่งแวดล้อมที่มีส่วนในการผลิตอาหารอย่างยั่งยืนส่วนที่2ที่เป็นส่วนสำคัญเลยก็คือเราสามารถให้คำปรึกษาได้แบบฟรีๆเลยอันไหนที่เราทำเองได้เราก็ทำข้างในอันไหนที่เราต้องการมีเอ็กซ์เพรสจากข้างนอกเราก็สามารถไปหาเอ็กซ์เพรสมาให้ซัพพอร์ตตรงนี้กับคนที่เป็นนวัตกรของเราได้เช่นเดียวกันอันนี้เป็น2ส่วนที่เราสามารถทำได้และเดี๋ยวเราก็อาจจะมานั่งพูดคุยกันต่อหลังจากนี้ว่าสำหรับคนที่เป็นนวัตกรเป็นนักธุรกิจด้านสังคมที่สนใจอยากจะเข้า WE4F เราจะสามารถทำยังไงทำงานร่วมกันได้ยังไงแต่ก่อนอื่นเลยครับเรามาคุยกันเรื่อง inclusive growth เป็นประเด็นหลักของเราวันนี้ก่อนเลยดีกว่า All right, and I think after the short introduction about WE4F, I think it's now the time for us to start talking about what exactly is inclusive growth. We have Susmita here, who is the technical assistant facilitator, who has been working on not only the inclusive growth, but the gender touch of it. She will talk about what exactly is inclusive growth and how can the business like you, big and small, can adapt and apply inclusive growth in your strategy. Susmita, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us today to have this discussion. I share my screen quickly to question for today. I'm Susmita. I work with the WE4F Asia team on a range of business advisory support for social entrepreneurs. And at the same time, I try to bring in a gender lens to the work we do alongside the business dimensions. What is WE4F? We can have like a quick introduction to the program. Now, WE4F is actually a successor of a couple of programs that were conducted by the same donors a few years back. This was Securing Water for Food and Powering Agriculture, which both focused on having sustainable water innovations in the agriculture sector and then sustainable energy innovations in the agriculture sector. And WE4F brings it all together to look at sustainable water and energy innovations in the sector. So what is the goal here? The goal here is to support sustainable food production with water and energy efficient solutions. So the entrepreneurs that we typically support under this program are either operating in the water for food space or energy for food space or water and energy for food space, depending on the relevance of the innovation in this. In the past year, the achievements we've made as a program includes having impacted about 340,000 smallholder farmers, where our innovators together collectively have reached these many farmer households, 45% of whom are women, have collectively supported production of 60,000 tons of food. And you can see significant achievements in energy savings and water savings. And because these are entrepreneurs, these are private sector companies, they've also been able to raise 3.8 million of investment in the private sector. Just to give you a quick example of the kind of innovations we support, these could be solar powered irrigation solutions, biogas digesters, which help in production of organic fertilizers, charcoal, which is charcoal produced from recycled agri waste, to something like solar dryers, which helps in value addition at the farm gate, chemical-free livestock farming, and of course, data and applications, which help farmers with a range of services, including weather forecast and other kinds of information. Now, coming to the topic of the day, what is inclusive business and why do we need to talk about it? Of course, there are many ways to define an inclusive business, but the simple definition or the simple characteristics that I think the group today would understand, especially in the agri and the food sector, would be businesses that focus on smallholder farmers in low-income countries, either as partners or as customers, as suppliers or employees across the value chain. These are businesses which will enable a new market for goods and services, which will create formal sector employment for these populations and enable income increases for them. And the focus here would be to cater to a market which hasn't been touched by the mainstream companies, which could be smallholder farmers, women, and base of the pyramid or marginalized communities. Profit here is a means to an end. The goal here is not to have profit for the sake of making profit, but use it as a means to an end to grow and scale as a business. Because the core target group for these businesses are smallholder farmers and base of the pyramid customers, they are continuously adapting their models to be able to meet the needs of these businesses. Now, I would like to emphasize here that inclusive businesses are like any other business with a goal to provide a service or a product and to generate a surplus, an economic surplus, to grow as a company. However, they cater to an underserved market and they use these the means of profit to be able to do that better and do that more continuously in the long term. The journey of a for-profit social enterprise would start with a commitment to sustainability and inclusion, and then moving towards implementation of these strategies and systems, and then embedding it into their core business functions to then create value for the business and the society. The reason it needs to be embedded in the business functions is because that will ensure continuity and sustainability of business. And it's not that these businesses don't have an impact on the environment or on the larger social context. It's just that we are trying better to understand what those impacts are and to accommodate the cost of mitigating any negative externalities that these businesses might have. Why the journey looks a lot more holistic, starting from commitment to value. And this journey can take a long time or a short time, depending on the resources available, the commitment levels of the companies, and the context in which they operate, depending on which country they are. Now, taking a minute to focus on why should businesses focus on inclusion and sustainability. What is the business case here? It is not a charitable thing to do. Today, inclusion and sustainability have come up as very strong pillars of commercial growth. There is untapped market opportunity, which a lot of innovators have been able to see. Just to go through a few quick data points. Now, 80% of our farmland in Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa is managed by smallholder farmers. So it creates an impetus to look at them as a customer category. Women comprise almost 50% of the agri-labor force in East and Southeast Asia. So the moment you focus on women with your products and services, you are able to expand your market size by that much. And cultural growth has the largest impact on poverty reduction. So it's very much aligned with government goals, with human development goals, therefore allowing for a lot more access to government funds. And in terms of environment sustainability, agriculture is also a sector with a high water and energy footprint, and therefore working on solutions which reduce that footprint allows us to create a market and also enable the society as a whole to use those resources for a lot longer. And in order to do all this, there's a lot of capital that's coming into the space. In 2020 alone, the impact investment potential was identified to be like over $600 billion. And agriculture sector, of course, has a lot of potential to leverage this opportunity. Inclusive businesses also need a different kind of ecosystem support because they're talking about a new context, they're talking about different challenges. Of course, the ecosystem in which they operate, they're competing with mainstream businesses, they're competing with all kinds of products and services out there, but they're also trying to do things differently. And therefore, we need a more ecosystem-oriented support for these companies. WE4F, there are 4 tools that we use to provide this support to innovators. And this is not just something that WE4F does, but a lot of accelerators and incubators out there, a lot of other funds and partners also follow the same approach, where they bring in grant capital, which is to support the expansion plan, the initial cost of building inclusion and sustainability into the model. They bring in business advisory, which is supporting businesses on how to grow, addressing different business problems. Because these companies cannot only depend on grants, they also bring in investment, and then bringing the policy and partnership, the ecosystem as a whole approach for this. Within this, we have identified inclusion and sustainability in 3 ways. Target base of the pyramid population impact, we target gender integration, and we target environmental sustainability. Now, the reason it's important to identify these lenses of inclusion is then you can set very tangible targets, and then you can measure the growth of organizations or the program as a whole in achieving these targets. If we don't spell it out explicitly, if we don't include these lenses explicitly, it's difficult for us to put tangible, measurable targets and also understand how we have made our achievements or to measure these achievements that we might have against the targets that we set. Now I'll try and talk a little bit about each of these services very quickly, and then we can get started with the discussion with our exciting entrepreneurs here today. Now, in terms of how business advisory works for a lot of these entrepreneurs or these businesses. Now, it's very typical support that any business would need, which includes helping them with marketing strategies, helping them with customer financing models, helping them with partnership frameworks or engagements, market research for expansion, or looking at business models to improve engagement with their customers. Except the customers here would be very specifically targeted smallholder farmers or women or base of the pyramid. And these support, therefore, will have an integrated focus on inclusion and sustainability. Just to give you an example of how we would do a similar support for base of the pyramid impact population. Now, when we design, say, a business development strategy or a microfinance product for farmers, it would be targeting the smallholder farmers because this product itself is being bought by farmers who have limited incomes or farmers who may not be able to make a high upfront payment, and therefore your recommendations or your support or implementation partners have to be identified accordingly. Similarly, when we look at technology improvement, when we look at technology development, incorporating the needs of smallholder farmers, the needs of women, the needs of marginalized communities into how they would use such a product would be important. Similarly, marketing strategy would focus on women users, or they would focus on how to reach women, how to target women across these various strategies. While we do all of this advisory, I think a couple of things that become very important for inclusive businesses and the support that programs are able to provide them is helping them with a detailed implementation plan, because a lot of these things might be might not have a lot of examples out there of having been done. So providing them with a step-by-step implementation plan, providing them with partnership support, connecting them to the right partners to be able to implement this program or these recommendations. Just to talk about gender as a lens of inclusion. Now, we have seen companies who have really benefited from implementing a gender lens in their trainings and recruitment, because it goes on to improve the number of customers they can have, the number of women they can support as users of their products and services. And employment of women has helped them also bring more women as customers. Similarly, problems like gender-based violence, which are conventionally thought of as not a business problem, but we've seen our innovators being impacted because of this, the cost of retraining and rehiring for the company when your workers are not able to come to work due to loss of productive hours and absenteeism because of violence at home, or men are not able to even focus on their work because of violence at home. Addressing these through gender action plans, through trainings, have reduced those costs for companies. Similarly, targeting women in, say, their marketing strategies, their outreach, online outreach to customers, have brought in better revenue and sales conversions, where women are now potential customers and adding to your revenue numbers. And while BOP and gender are one of the social side of the lens that we bring into the support we provide, there's also the environmental sustainability, which is central to all the work we do. All our innovators go through rigorous environmental assessment where we acknowledge and identify the impact the business has on the environment, and also the impact that environment might have on the business operations. And it could be relating to water, it could be relating to the land use, it could be relating to generation of e-waste, and addressing them through mitigation strategies, building a business case for addressing them in the communities they work with the customers they work with, is something that the program offers. 4 or 5 areas of support under environment that a lot of our entrepreneurs is first is around measuring of impact. Like if you don't have the right tools to measure the impact you have on the environment, positive and negative, then that's like the first step to creating plans and strategies for mitigation, right? So we help them design the monitoring frameworks and the data collection tools, bringing them together to share best practices around biodiversity and improving resilience of their customers, which is farmers in this case. Building sustainable value chains by including partnerships and strategies for disposal of e-waste generated by the companies. And of course, more importantly, bringing in investment from the climate lens or the carbon credit opportunities to reduce the price of the product for the end users. Now, while advisory is a primary support we provide to companies, that's not it, right? Just with advisory, a company will not be able to scale because they also need resources to implement those advisory recommendations. And for that, we also work with companies on helping them connect with the right investors, helping them work through the process of investment. And even within that, we have a lens of inclusion where companies that are women-led or have a significant share of women customers, we try and connect them and build their gender lens investment readiness. Similarly, companies with strong climate focus, connecting them with climate lens investors or impact investors. And then ultimately looking at the use of that money into aspects of mainstreaming gender or mainstreaming BOP financing is also something that the investment support works with. is around creating the policy and partnership ecosystem, which is a very strong element of how, especially in this sector, a lot of companies. We work in the agri-food space, and there is a lot of interconnection between business and government support. At the same time, how society demands or demand creation of these new innovative technologies and solutions, whether it's water efficient technologies or energy efficient technologies. Therefore, there's a strong role of an interlinkage between the policy partnership support and the business support that the inclusive businesses need. There we look at primarily 3-4 kinds of support, just as examples to give you an idea. Looking at ease of business operations, where you are working with companies and the government or the government stakeholders on the other side to create responsive policies for businesses in this sector, especially women and BOP-led businesses. What are the challenges that these businesses would face differently? Stimulating market growth through financing options for BOP and women, smart subsidy to lower costs, but in a way that is supportive of the business and not kind of penalizing the business. Looking at sustainable certifications, value chain growth and development, and then finally looking at associations and groupings of stakeholders which are like-minded, where partnerships can help each other thrive. So finally, I would like to conclude by saying that inclusive businesses are indeed smart businesses who have identified an underserved market or an underserved need. And this is not just a new concept. This has continuously happened. Businesses have evolved themselves with the need of the hour. We had an entire industry of fossil fuels, which was so dominating for so many decades. And now you see a lot of those companies also shifting to cleaner energy because the market demands it, or there's a need in the market which is being catered to. And if the numbers are something to go by, there is immense potential both in the BOP markets. The food sector alone is about $3 billion markets if we target the base of the pyramid population. If we bring in women into the entire value chain, there's a chance of improving our food production, reducing the food poverty and increasing yields. Also improving company valuations with 25% greater increase in valuation of businesses that have women in leadership. And in order to achieve all of this, there's a increasing investment that's coming into the climate space with over $1 billion, over $1,000 billion in just a couple of sectors like renewable energy and water smart investments. So I would say if you are already an inclusive business and you're working with these issues, this ecosystem approach, there is a lot of support out there and you need to find the right partner to work with. And if you are not an inclusive business yet and you are considering to get into this space, there's a lot of opportunity, as you can see. And if you haven't thought about it, it's time that you kind of start thinking about bringing this lens very smartly into your business. Yeah, I'll pause here. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you so much สมิตาขอบคุณมากครับคุณสมิตานะครับนี่เราจบไปแล้วเป็นพาร์ทแรกนะครับแต่ผมจะสรุปคร่าวๆแล้วกันว่าในส่วนของ inclusive growth มีอะไรบ้างครับประเด็นแรกอาจจะเป็นเรื่องของสิ่งแวดล้อมอย่างที่เราหลายคนก็คงทราบกันดีแหละว่าเรื่อง climate change เป็นประเด็นหลักหรือเรื่องการเปลี่ยนแปลงการสภาพภูมิอากาศเป็นหนึ่งในเรื่องที่หลายคนไม่ว่าจะเป็นภาคส่วนของธุรกิจเองก็ดีหรือภาครัฐบาลหรือภาคเอกชนเองก็ดีพูดถึงกันอย่างมากมายอันนี้เป็นด้านหนึ่งที่เรามองนะครับในเรื่องของ inclusive growth ในด้านของสิ่งแวดล้อมในด้านของสังคมมีอะไรบ้างด้านสังคมแน่นอนในเรื่องของแบ่งเป็น2ส่วนละกันส่วนหนึ่งก็คือในเรื่องของการส่งเสริมสิทธิสตรีหรือการส่งเสริมโอกาสการให้โอกาสจากผู้ประกอบการนะครับให้กับสุภาพสตรีแล้วก็คนที่เป็นเพศทางเลือกทั้งหลาย ในขณะเดียวกันก็คือในการสนับสนุนเกษตรกรที่เป็นเกษตรกรรายย่อยก็เป็นในหนึ่งด้านที่น่าสนใจในฝั่งของ inclusive growth นอกจากที่เราจะทำดีออกไปแล้วเนี่ยสมิสตายังเมนชั่นในพูดถึงในเรื่องของโอกาสในครั้งสุดท้ายในสไลด์สุดท้ายว่าจริงๆแล้วเนี่ยนอกจากที่เราทำไปเพื่อประโยชน์ทางด้านสังคมและสิ่งแวดล้อมแล้วเนี่ยมันมีประโยชน์ทางด้านอื่นกับตัวองค์กรเองกับตัวบริษัทเองด้วยนะครับในเรื่องของเงินทุนที่จะให้ที่เราก็จะเห็นว่าในหลายๆครั้งที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยนักลงทุนไม่ได้มองแค่ในส่วนของด้านการเงินอย่างเดียวแต่มองในส่วนของด้าน Impact ด้วยอันนี้เป็นการสรุปคร่าวๆนะครับว่าเมื่อกี้เราคุยอะไรกันบ้างแล้วก็จะปูต่อไปในเรื่องของเซสชันต่อไปที่เราจะมานั่งคุยกันแล้วว่าเราคุยถึงเรื่อง inclusive growth มันมีหลายมุมมากเลยในมุมของผู้ประกอบการในแต่ละด้านมอง inclusive growth แบบไหนมองอย่างไรประเด็นที่2ที่เราจะมาคุยกันก็คือว่านอกจากว่าเรามองแบบไหนมองยังไงแล้วเนี่ยมันมีโอกาสและมีความท้าทายอะไรบ้างที่จะทำให้ธุรกิจหนึ่งธุรกิจเป็นธุรกิจเพื่อสังคมเป็นธุรกิจที่มองนอกเหนือจากด้านการเงินอันสุดท้ายที่เราจะมาคุยกันก็คือว่าสมมติท่านผู้ชมผู้ฟังที่มองอยู่ตรงเนี้ยที่กำลังดูคลิปนี้อยู่อยากจะปรับโมเดลของตัวเองอยากจะปรับธุรกิจของตัวเองให้ inclusive หรือให้เสริมสร้างการมีส่วนร่วมมากขึ้นหรือให้สนับสนุนด้านการเปลี่ยนแปลงไปทางที่ดีมากขึ้นมีอะไรบ้างใน 2-3 สเต็ปที่เราจะต้องทำ3ประเด็นนี้ครับเป็นประเด็นที่เราจะคุยกันใน1ชั่วโมงหลังจากนี้เราจะพยายามลิมิตอยู่ที่ประมาณ45นาทีในการที่เราแต่ละคนจะพูดคุยกันกับ panelist ทั้ง3คนแล้ว15นาทีสุดท้ายถ้าเกิดมีใครมีคำถามหรืออะไรก็แล้วแต่สามารถพิมพ์เข้ามาในแชทได้เลยนะครับตรงกลางจะเห็นอยู่แล้วมีฟังก์ชันแชทสามารถพิมพ์เข้ามาได้เลยหรือจะกดยกมือแล้วก็ถามได้ตลอดเวลานะครับโอเคเพื่อไม่เป็นการเสียเวลาผมอาจจะขอเชิญ panelist ทั้ง3ท่านนะครับขึ้นมานั่งพูดคุยกันคนแรกขาดไม่ได้เลยนะครับคุณหนาวนะครับจากทำธุรกิจนะครับผมจะให้คุณหนาวที่ใส่หมวกฝั่งคนที่ทำงานร่วมกับภาคเกษตรกรโดยเฉพาะเกษตรกรรายย่อยมาอย่างยาวนานนะครับในส่วนของทำธุรกิจตั้งแต่การสร้างเครือข่ายเกษตรกร
Recording stopped.
สร้างโอกาสให้กับเกษตรกรรายย่อยสวัสดีครับคุณหนาวครับ
Recording in progress.
สวัสดีครับท่านที่2นะครับคุณเอิร์กนะครับจาก DeFi นะครับทำหลังจากที่ผ่านมาผมว่าเราหลายคนได้ยินเรื่อง PM 2.5 ได้ยินเรื่องฝุ่นได้ยินเรื่องการเผากันมาเยอะแยะมากมายเรามีไอเดียเรามีทางแก้กันมามากมายแต่ว่า DeFi มีไอเดียที่ผมมองว่าหนึ่งในไอเดียที่ดีมากนอกจากจะบอกให้เขาหยุดเผาแล้วเนี่ยเรามี benefit อะไรให้เขาบ้างมีด้านของ Carbon Credit ที่ทาง DeFi กำลังพยายามทำอันนี้เราก็จะชวนคุณเอิร์กมานั่งคุยในหมวกของการทำ Carbon Credit แล้วรวมถึงของการใช้เทคโนโลยีในการที่จะทำให้ธุรกิจมัน inclusive แล้วก็ sustainable มากขึ้นสวัสดีครับคุณเอิร์กครับ
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับสุดท้ายนะครับคุณโอก้านะครับโอก้าอยู่ที่ Recycle นะครับซึ่ง Recycle เป็นหนึ่งใน startup หนึ่งใน social enterprise ที่ทาง WE4F กำลังทำงานด้วยอยู่นะครับทำงานด้วยมาปีกว่าๆแล้วก็เพิ่งได้การสนับสนุนด้านเรื่องเงินทุนไปด้วยนะครับที่จะทำ Recycle จริงๆแล้วตอนแรกอยู่ที่พม่านะครับแต่ตอนนี้โอก้าย้ายมาอยู่ที่ไทยแล้วนะครับแล้วก็กำลังเรียนภาษาไทยอยู่นะครับตอนนี้อยู่ที่เชียงใหม่แล้วก็อยู่ที่ขอนแก่นสิ่งที่ Recycle ทำก็คือการใช้ IoT เหมือนกันเข้ามาจัดการขยะเพราะฉะนั้นก็จะเป็นอีกหมวกหนึ่งที่เราจะได้เห็นแล้วก็มานั่งพูดคุยกันในวันนี้นะครับสวัสดีครับโอก้าครับ Hi Olga, thank you for joining us and I just did a very brief discussion and introduction about you and Recycle. All right, without further ado, I may want to start with the first question. คำถามแรกนะครับที่อยากจะมานั่งเซตโทนกันก่อนก็คือว่าจริงๆแล้วเนี่ยคำว่า inclusive growth เนี่ยมันเป็นยังไงบ้างอาจจะขอให้ speaker แต่ละท่าน panelist แต่ละท่านพูดถึงประสบการณ์ตัวเองก่อนว่าตอนนี้กำลังทำอะไรอยู่และในความหมายของ inclusive growth ของแต่ละท่านเนี่ย inclusive growth หมายความว่าอะไรบ้างผมอาจจะขอเชิญคุณเอิร์กขึ้นมาแชร์
Let me ask Erk, define. First, who are your customers? What is your impact? what is inclusive growth, inclusive business means in your view? Please, Erk.
Thank you very much. My name is Erk. I'm a CEO of a startup called DeFi. DeFi is a platform that incentivizes farmers to stop burning plants and crops using carbon credits to promote sustainable agriculture. We started by engaging directly with farmers and trying to address the issues, pain points from various allergies as a result of polluted dust and smoke in the air. In terms of inclusive growth, for me, we incorporate inclusive growth in our business model. For me, it is empathy. I think we need to understand the logic or reason behind the actions. For the case of our company, farmers burn cropland because it is cheap. This is a matter of poverty. Imagine if we are small-scale farmers. Nobody actually wants to burn. The main reason for the farmers to adopt this technique of burning plants and crops is the fastest way and the cheapest way. So all of these actions derive from poverty. So this is the first part of our empathy. So we focus on the poverty issue, addressing the poverty issue first. As there is a demand to address this issue, it is important to understand all the stakeholders from the perspective of inclusive business.
Thank you, Erk. I like it very much.
I really like the idea
Before we
of inclusive growth.
Growth, we need to ensure that
what is interesting is
bring in the
identifying
stakeholders. We
who are
understand the pain point of the
relevant
farmers.
stakeholders.
For those who are,
What are the issues? What are
we
the
would
pain
like to
points
work
we need
with,
to
what are
address?
their pain points? Thank you very much.
Which is really, really interesting. Thank you.
Next, I will start with Kun Nao, Tham Churikit, who has been working with farmers for a long time. Could you please introduce yourself? Introduce Tham Churikit. What is the business about? What is the impact? In your view, what does it mean by inclusive growth? Kun Nao, please. Turkit has started the business since the last 9 years, starting with the training for the farmers who use the chemical, trying to change them, to be organically way. Our main product is rice, San Pa Tong, which is quite strong. I would like to summarize into 3 points that Turkey is focusing on fair deals, ensure that both farmers and the consumers has fairness. The farmers need to be fair with the ground environment by avoiding the chemical and becoming the chemical free, become environmentally friendly, show that the product is safe for the consumers. And the customer should be fair as well. If they would like to have good rice that is chemical free, they should be fair with the farmers, paying higher price to ensure that the farmers can, sustain as well. So in short, we need to include everyone, ensure that it has the fairness there. Let's talk about what does it mean exactly by the fairness for farmers, for consumers as well. For example, if the consumers would like to be, more fair, they should pay more to get better products, safer products.
What exactly Recyclo is doing, and especially what are you planning to do in Thailand? And the second one is, as you may know, that there are a lot of definition, there are a lot of elements of inclusive growth. In your perspective, what exactly is inclusive growth? And in the definition of Recyclo, Oka, please.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for inviting me. Sawadee krap. My name is Oka. I'm one of the founder of Recyclo. For presence in 5 countries in Southeast Asia, Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, and Myanmar. So my background is engineering and finance. I work in different places around the world, and then we came together and let's have a tangible solution in this part of the world, and we will find a solution together. We will collaborate together, and we will use technology to scale, particularly in the sustainability sector and agricultural sector. So that was our mission. So for now, we are in Thailand. We are working on the biofertilizer project, as well as other agricultural services. So potentially that will include financing for the farmers, using blockchain, also technological services for monitoring and evaluation. But for now, we are focusing on the using biofertilizer, so that the people can have a less, cheaper fertilizer, because now, because of supply chain disruptions and inflations and global recessions, it is becoming very, very expensive for horticulture farmers, especially the horticulture farmers, so fruits and vegetable growers, to grow their businesses, because it's very expensive to buy. And also, from a food safety perspective, if you use too much fertilizer, it's chemically, you have a high amount of residual, so that make the product or fruits and vegetable not to be able to edible. So we are try to solve it from the more organic approach, so that the fruit that we eat, the vegetable that we eat, will have a less residual, and then it'll be safe for us to consume. So let's start with the inclusive growth. For us, we have 2 definitions of our own inclusive growth. So the first definition is external, and the second definition, internal. So for external perspective, we believe that we are born in a different place, different ethnicity, different skin color, different background, different religion, different geography. So many different demographic that we can define. So we all have different starting point. So if you are born in a specific country, or if you are born in a more advanced economy, your starting point will be very different. I mean, you can even go beyond, right? Rich family, poor family, educated family. So for us, it's like we want to create a society where we can give leverages an opportunity for everyone to have a similar starting positions. So what we try to do is we wish this to create a system. So I mean, we want to be part of this change catalyst, create a system where we can give everybody an opportunity So not because like you are you born physically stable, but we want to create a society where we can also absorb and help and employ those people who are born disadvantaged. So externally inclusiveness. So everybody can have a more or less equal starting point, and they can pursue their passions, they can pursue their happiness. So that was our own the external definition. For the internal definitions, it is very, very, very important. I want to emphasize on that. It's very, very important that your work environment is welcoming to your colleagues, to your friends, to your client, to your customers, so that everybody can feel that they can contribute. So it's not a place that they feel the pressure from the boss, and they feel the office politic. So we want to create a safe place where everybody can be inclusive. So we don't care your religion, we don't care that gender. We want to support people with even with different idea. They could be in a totally different spectrum from the left to the right, but this place can still be a place where all the innovativeness, this zealous efforts can come together, and then can create a project together, and can implement it together. So we do have policies for like anti-discriminations, gender inclusivity. We have ISO 9000 2015. We have B Corp certification is in progress. We have ISO 14001 for environmental management. So we have all these external certificates and policies and procedures in place that can create a space and actually a executing mechanism for everyone to feel safe. So we do not just have a policy, we also practice this. So what we believe is, when you talk about it, you have to walk the talk. So we are working on actually to walk the talk, and we practice this inclusivity for our employees. And we also encourage all of our partners in different countries, and different region to do the same as well. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Olga. And I think that's really important for us to walk the talk, not only just to tell people that it is exactly what you should do, but also how we actually do it ourselves. And I also like that you mentioned about respecting everyone, not only in a full range of spectrum, like from different race, different gender, we need to take and treat all of them the same. And you also give a little touch on environmental side as well at the beginning. Let me ask one follow-on question on that. As I think Recyclo has been in a lot of phase, from being a small startup, being in a growth stage, and now expanding to a lot of countries. In the past, how do you see the small or medium business face the challenge to balance between financial sustainability, to get more money as possible, to be able to stay at top and survive in the business world, at the same time to need to also balance it with the environmental sustainability and also social inclusion aspects? Like, how can you think the business like Recycle perform, and what are the challenges, and how did you overcome it?
It's a wonderful questions. I think it has a lot of layers to solve, but I'll focus on the one or two topic to save the time, also to give one single message for this discussions. So for us, we started just with an idea, and we really believe in it because we have done a serious research in all these, qualitative focus group and a regional solution finding. And you don't really see that when we started in 2017, you don't really see that kind of solution in that time. The market was not mature yet. I mean, the market is still not mature, because even though now you have a lot of startups and SMEs coming together to solve these climate change issues, environment issues, and also like agricultural, but tackling from the climate change perspective. So we are seeing it right now. So we are very, very happy, because that means that ecosystem is getting mature. So when you try to raise the fund, it becomes easier, a lot easier. So we essentially, Recyclo is a technological company. So we provide informational services and data services for our B2B clients, and B2B clients give us the raw materials in return, and also the subscription fee as well. So we provide software, and we receive the raw material, and we turn these into a value added and product on the other end of the supply chain spectrum. So for us, when we try to raise the fund, it was very challenging because there is no comparison to benchmark. They do have a comparison in Europe and America, like for example, like Rubicon in America, and some Nordic countries have a similar model, and also in France, as they have done a lot of good exit, and they are worth billions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars. But in this part of the global South, Southeast Asia, South Asia, South America, and Africa, this model is still very new. So when we talk to our investor, we approach it from the technological data perspective. So that's how we overcome this financing problem, because technological thing, they know that this can scale, they know that they can reach out to a lot of people, they know that SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, ESG, environmental social governance, they will become a very important role in the future. So they are willing to give a trust for us. So the final part that I want to tackle it's about the profitability between profitability and impact. So it is could be hard sometime and occasionally are you just focusing on the impact, or are you just focusing on all the profit? For us, our core business, it is the impact business model, which is second layer is empowered by technology, so that this impact can be scaled. But also this the cycle is also financially sustainable, because you have a financing mechanism that will support you by your client. So it's essentially a client financing model. So we have envisioned ourselves, everything that we do, every time that we grow, our impact must escalate, for 4, 5, 6, 700, 1,000 times. So that is our impact. So our goal right now is in 2025, 2027, we want to have 100 million users who are using our services directly or indirectly. So that's our goal. So that but we also see that there are a lot of SMEs and startup, they want to only focus on impact, but they find it really challenging to be sustainable financially from the investor perspective, also to finance it by themselves, by the customer model. The problem is scalability. They will be stuck all the time with scalability. So we always talk to our community that you have to have a model where your core business is impact, but are also empowered by technology, and the product itself, the service itself is scalable. Then you will feel happy and satisfied, because every time you grow your business, you are not just only financially sustainable, but also impact wide, you are serving millions of people. So that's what we always talk to our community.
Thank you วกันเมื่อกี้ก็จะโยนไมค์กลับไปที่ทางคุณเอิร์กครับแน่นอนเมื่อกี้เราพูดถึงแตะในเรื่องของการสเกลการทำให้มันใหญ่ขึ้นรวมถึงด้านการ raise fund ผมว่าทาง DeFi เองก็มีโมเดลที่น่าสนใจในด้านการ raise fund แล้วก็การใช้ fund ที่ raise ด้วยไม่ใช่แค่ว่าเป็นการลงทุนอย่างเดียวเป็นการขายคาร์บอนเครดิตอาจจะอยากให้แชร์นิดหน่อยครับว่าฝั่งนี้มันมี challenge อะไรบ้างที่จะทำเพราะดูมันเป็นไอเดียที่ใหม่เลยทีเดียวคุณเอิร์กเลยครับ
ขอบคุณครับจริงคิดว่าถ้าสรุป challenge ของ DeFi คำเดียวเลยคิดว่าคือคำว่า doubt ก็คือคำว่าแบบไม่เชื่อคำถามคือไม่เชื่อมาจากไหนมาจากทุก stakeholder ที่เกี่ยวข้องกับธุรกิจเราเลยครับจริงๆต้องบอกว่าของเราเนี่ยมันคล้ายๆกับเป็น social innovation จริงๆสิ่งที่พวกเรามี element ต่างๆมันไม่ได้ใหม่หรอกครับการทำงานกับเกษตรกรการใช้ดาวเทียมคาร์บอนเครดิตก็มีอยู่แล้วการเผาไร่โซลูชันก็มีเยอะแยะแต่ทั้งหมด 4-5 เรื่องที่พูดมาเมื่อกี้ครับมันยังมีใครเคยเอามารวมกันพอมันไม่
Based on the earlier conversation we discussed, there's no party has ever incorporated all the elements together. So as an entrepreneur, our job is to clarify those doubts, to gradually clear up each doubt for everyone. I really agree with Kunoka from Recycler about doing our own research.
ยังเผาอยู่ปรากฏว่าก็เจอจริงๆครับว่าสิ่งที่สำคัญที่สุดในการเผาเนี่ยมันคือเรื่องเด็บหนี้สินซึ่งมันก็โยงมากๆกับเรื่องความยากจนคำถาม
So it all links to poverty.
ก็ผมว่าจริงๆแล้วพอเราเอาตัวแพลตฟอร์มนี้ไปเทสกับเกษตรกรก็เวิร์กจริงๆหมายถึงว่าเขาก็มี adoption rate ประมาณ 80% ของคนที่เผาเนี่ยอยากเลิกเผาด้วยแพลตฟอร์มนี้
Based on statistics, 80% of the farmers that burn plants and crops want to adopt new practice if they can.
ว่าแบบยูจะรวบรวมเกษตรกรได้เยอะไหมเพราะมันมีเรื่องของ economic of scale ต่างๆ
The other doubt that the buyers of carbon credit have is on the numbers of the markets for carbon credit.
ด้วยตาเปล่าหมายความว่ามันต้องใช้ scientific วิทยาศาสตร์เยอะมากมาตรวจวัดว่าจริงๆแล้วสิ่งที่พวกเราทำเนี่ยมันลด
About carbon credit, it's very scientific. And measuring how much carbon is reduced is not an easy thing to do.
ของพวกเราเนี่ยต้องบอกว่ามันเป็นสิ่งที่ค่อนข้างใหม่ใน carbon credit ในไทย
This is a new area for us.
carbon credit สักกะตันเดียวเนี่ยหน่วยของ carbon credit เป็นตันคาร์บอนไม่มีสักกะตันเดียวเลยเนี่ยที่ผลิตมาจากภาคเกษตรยิ่งการเผาได้นี่แทบจะยิ่งไม่มีเลยใน region นี้
In this region, there hasn't been transaction of carbon credit in Southeast Asia. But for us, we need to follow the right standards. But then the standards are varied. If we want to make international sales of carbon credit, we need to deal with different regulations of each country.
คิดว่ามันเป็นสิ่งที่ดีมากๆในการพัฒนาธุรกิจเพราะว่าทุกครั้งที่ดาวมันโดนเคลียร์ไป
We think by having doubts is good to challenge ourselves as an entrepreneur.
แล้วมันมีความเป็นไปได้และลดความเสี่ยงในอนาคตมากขึ้นสิ่งที่คิดว่ามันเป็น challenge ที่สุดคิดว่า
The biggest challenge for a startup with dealing with lots of challenges and doubts
ดาวใน purpose ที่พวกเรากำลังจะต้องการ drive นี้หรือเปล่าว่ามันเป็นสิ่งที่ท้าทายที่สุดสำหรับทุกคนที่ทำธุรกิจที่เป็น innovation เพราะฉะนั้นเราคิดว่าจริงๆก็เจอนะหมายถึงว่าพอมันเจอว่าที่มันจะทำได้จริงบ่เนี่ยสุดท้ายก็มันต้องกลับมาทบทวนตัวเองว่าpurpose อะไรที่เรายัง
So I have a lot of doubts when I started the business, but then I always come back to myself and ask myself,
โอเคถ้ามันวิ่งชนกำแพงเราลองพีวอตไหมในสตาร์ทอัพใช้คำว่าพีวอตก็คือแบบเปลี่ยนทางไหมหาบิสโมเดลใหม่ไหมมาซัพพอร์ตไหมหรือว่าทำยังไงผมคิดว่ามันก็ต้องยึดมั่นใน purpose แล้วก็ believe ใน purpose ของตัวเองครับแล้วก็ค่อย
we need to believe on our purpose, which is the main challenge for startups.
ผมว่าเป็นประเด็นที่สำคัญมากเลยคือชอบ2 อันมากหนึ่งคือเรื่องของการทำวิจัยเนอะมันไม่ได้เรื่องของการทำวิจัยหาข้อมูลเพื่อจะแบ็กไอเดียหรือด้านเทคโนโลยีอย่างเดียวอาจจะต้องรวมไปถึงการทำวิจัยหาข้อมูลทางด้าน regulation ด้านกฎหมายที่จะเกี่ยวกับธุรกิจของเราด้วยอีกอันนึงเรื่องของ doubt อันนี้อาจจะถามนอกเรื่องนิดนึงแต่ผมว่าเป็นเรื่องที่น่าสนใจก็คือว่าในวันที่หลายคน doubt เรามากเลยผมเชื่อว่าคนในของ DeFi เองก็คงจะรู้สึกเหมือนกันว่าแบบเฮ้ยทำอะไรอยู่เนี่ยในวันนั้นนะครับคุณเอิร์กมีข้อแนะนำอะไรไหมผมว่าหลายสตาร์ทอัพผู้ประกอบการหลายคนอาจจะกำลังอยู่หรืออยู่ในเฟสนั้น
Do you have any suggestions to overcome the challenges? How to keep the motivation up?
As an individual, the main driver to overcome challenges, whenever carbon credits gets to the farmers, this really motivates me to keep going. When we collaborated with Mae Pha Luang Foundation, we understood the plight of farmers, the struggle, the thrive, how they had to thrive. Our role is to solve the problems. We gradually address the issues one by one, which is a normal practice. The most challenging aspect is the doubts in my team. My colleagues, partners, we need to be really strong about the purpose and the mission we want to drive. We always have to remind ourselves that about the important work we do. Overcoming these hurdles is a challenging task. Although we have been in the business for some time, there's still doubts, but we are working on it.
So I believe that many of you can also use this trick as well. Let's move on to now. We might have 2 questions for you. Since you have been in business for several years, maybe around 20 years, how you overcome the challenges, the doubt, or do you have any other challenges that any other person might have faced and how you can overcome that? So mostly people are not believing how we can really actually use the Dhamma to lead the business, because these 2 things seems to be a separate thing and cannot work together between Dhamma and business. But we need to prove that it really can happen. This term is not coined, it's not created just to make the business. This term, I got it from the time that I ordained as a Buddhist monk. I believe in taking action, showing action from your soul, clean soul, is quite easy to prove. It is easy to pass those doubts because we really take action along the time. Quite a big challenge for us as well, actually. For another challenge is about soul, the abstract thing is also a challenging part, because Tamturkit is not only social enterprise, but we are sufficient social enterprise. The challenge is about the principle of sufficiency economy, how we can communicate the concept to people. We are not only organic farming, but we are the trainer. We train the farmers. It takes time. For example, it might take 3 to 4 nights. My master, my teacher, Yak and John, are also work on this as well. Working on the fact that farmers should start thinking in the right way first, focusing on farming for themselves first, and then sell the remaining part. Ensure that their life is in a sustainable way. How sufficiency economy comes into practice? It's really important to communicate about the principles, focusing on the fact that each person, each farmer starting growing for themselves first, and then sell the remaining parts. And to ensure that the products are chemical free, utilizing both water and land in a more sufficient way, which is not easy, it's quite challenging. It's quite obvious and it's quite beneficial from the fact that the farmers grow rice and then eat within the family first and then sell later on. They might donate to the temple as well. This way is more sustainable.
entrepreneur หรือผู้ประกอบการทางสังคมหลายคนทำงานกับทางฝั่งของเกษตรกรนะครับไม่ว่าจะทาง DeFi เองทาง Recycle เองหรือผู้ประกอบการทางสังคมคนอื่นในฐานะที่ของทำธุรกิจครับมีเครือข่ายเกษตรกรอยู่ค่อนข้าง
One more question. Since you have the network of farmers, could you please share how did you do to scale up, to connect with more farmers? What are the tips and tricks that you do to connect with more farmers, to convince them to believe in the principles of sufficiency economy as well? The easiest way to convince those farmers to connect more farmers is leading by examples, by being role model for them. Show them how it is actually work, starting with how the farmers to think first and then execute. I myself also eat the vegetables that I grow as well. For example, like morning glory, I do it. I lead it by example. I work with the farmers. I work with the villagers by not focusing on only the revenue or the incomes, focusing on how they live their life, how they consume the products that they themselves produce on their lands. Some of the farmers might not have their own land. They might sell it and then they rent it back. The first step actually is to ensure that farmers can survive, ensure that they have fruits in their family. This is the key criteria that makes working with farmers become successful. Make sure that they can survive.
Talk about the challenges about getting people and more farmers on board. What are the tips and tricks? How about getting more, getting Plan B in case things go south, and actually how to clear the doubt within the team. But now I think it's a good time for us to talk about the opportunities. If and only if any other company who may or may not be the social enterprise at this moment, but they eventually want to be a social enterprise and want to scale the business without and beyond the financial incentive to cover social and environmental incentive. How can they do that? And Olga, I think you mentioned about scalability. You mentioned it a lot, and we totally believe that scalability means a lot of things for the entrepreneurs. If they want to scale and able to achieve the social and environmental impact, what would be the top 3 things that it should start doing?
Okay, the number one thing that I will give a recommendation. I mean, I'm not really in a position that can give the advice, but I based on the experience, what we can share is how we have grown is having a great mentor. So if you are a founder, female mentor for each founder, or even for the executive team, because it is very important, because when you build a journey, you will 5 to 10 years. The standard is 10 years. So don't expect that you start the social enterprise or company as a startup, then you're like, maybe is it leave it to my colleague, and it would still generate impact and income, then I'll have another one. It is not that easy. You could do it, but you have to think about the time value of money and opportunity cost. Let's say, example, let's say one of the largest company in Thailand, let's say CP or True or whatever it is come to your mind. Then you have, let's say 2,000. You live in Bangkok. You have 1,000. Your value for 1 year is $36,000. So for 10 years, you can make $360,000. That's just the revenue that you can potentially generate. But if you start this organization, so then you are in the middle, then you kind of lost motivation, then you are trapped and you've lost, then you just stop. So your time value of money for 10 years is $360,000, which is quite a lot. So you have to really think for at least medium term and potentially for the long term. Yes, that social enterprise journey can give you the extremely psychological satisfactions, and you have your own leadership. You are leading your own boat, and you're pedaling yourself, and you are making your own schedule for your time, but you can get lost. So it's very important that you have a mentor and give you the curated advice. It's like a coach, right? It's like coach and mentor. It's better to have, even if you have a tool to curate you, to guide through this for this very, very long journey. Otherwise, you'll get lost. You'll be distracted. You'll be distracted by so many things. And along the way, you have even you're not still single. Probably in 10 years you get married, or you are married. Your kid will. So you have other priorities in your life. So how do you balance? You do need a mentor. Sometimes you can get crazy also, so they can balance you out. The second thing is about financing. So being a social enterprise or having an inclusive business model, it can be expensive because you are doing a lot of compliance. That might not necessarily generate the revenue for your organization. So you have to be creative about it. You have to be strategic about it. So let's say you invest in your inclusive model for 10% of your revenue, and how can you make more money? So you have to be really as you approach me, instead of probably a VC investor who invests in startup, don't approach them. It's really hard to persuade them to invest in your company, but you can be selective and you can approach to investor or philanthropic or impact investment in Europe or in America or in East Asia or global foundation that are giving money. So you can directly try to approach them. That will give you more chance and opportunity to kickstart your business and also to de-risk your current risk, so that your opportunity cost, time value for money, and starting your own social enterprise or inclusive business model, it can be offset, and it can even give you the foundation to scale your business. So that's how you approach for the financing. So don't go hard for those who will not give you the money, but go to the pool that are likely to give you the money. That's the second part. The third share point that I would like to share is when you start when you do when you start, you will you get frustrated, and you get angry because you're not going to the level that you want to be. So you have to be persistent. So the third thing is you have to have a grit and persistent is very important. So we started our organization in 2017. Now we are in a Series A level, and we are hoping to go to Series B, Series C, to do those stages, and cover with the data perspective in the South Asia perspective. So don't be discouraged by it. So people will say to you like, it's not possible, and you are crazy, you are mad. You have to be persistent about it. You have to grit about it, and just really believe in it. But when every step you take, it has to be a strategic decision to achieve to the goal that you want to be. So that's 3 parts that I would like to share.
Thank you very much โอกาสขอบคุณมากนะครับคุณโอกาสมีแชร์มา3 point นะครับ1คือหาเมนทอร์ที่หนึ่งในนั้นก็คือหาเมนทอร์ที่ดีนะครับรวมถึงด้านการincorporate ทุกอย่างเข้าไปใน business model ไม่ใช่แค่เรื่องของ impact อย่างเดียวเพราะหลายอย่างที่เราทำที่เราแคร์ด้าน impact ก็อาจจะไม่ได้หมายความว่ามันจะถูก ส่งผลกับเราในด้านการเงินเสมอไปนะครับเพราะฉะนั้นก็อาจจะต้องรวมอันนี้เข้าไปด้วยจะดีกว่านั้นถ้าเกิดว่าเราสามารถสร้างเงิน
Even
จาก
better if we can get more money from the impact that we create. That would be great. And the last question goes to both Earth, the fire, and now Tam Turkey. What would you like to say to everyone here if you would like to adapt your business to a more inclusive business way?
There are two cases. The first one, the one who wishes to be a social enterprise. If you look at the root cause that you want to solve. What is the root cause? Can we design a business to create a win-win solution? Nobody wants to be victims or nobody wants to create issues, but there are reasons behind everything to all the problems in the world. This is my recommendation for those that are aspire to become social enterprise. There could also be another case where companies are already making sufficient profit, but they want to be shifted more towards social enterprise. What I'll do is stakeholders mapping. This is a first step analysis to understand the pros and cons, the impacts of our business. Then, based on the pros and cons of your impact, can there be a win-win solution? Create some kind of synergy to solve social and to solve problems. Once you can solve problems, this can turn into profit. So this is my suggestions for those that want to start off as a social enterprise business or wanting to move towards social enterprise.
Thank you, Earth, with all those two cases from you. Let's moving on to now. Of course, you are social enterprise since the beginning. What are your suggestions? Is you are working with several sectors, both government and corporate. What social enterprise should or should not do? Okay, let's start with the social enterprise. In the normal business, it's quite difficult to survive. Now, some of the business are, closed due to COVID situation since the last 2 years. Now we are having more situation, which might be World War III in the future. This makes economic is worse. It's not easy to survive in the normal situation for the business, but the social enterprise is even harder. How the business side can survive, sustain, and can also create social impact that each social enterprise would like to work on. So we need really a huge moral support. Otherwise, some social entrepreneurs might give up since it's not really easy. I might not be able to provide additional recommendation except the moral support with the resistance. We call it resistance theory. How you hang in there a bit more and a bit more. This way, it makes Tam Turkey survive for the last 9 years. Even we still don't have any profit, but we stick to this theory, the resistance theory. We mainly focus on the social impact. We believe that our business side, our numbers will improve. I believe that we might not have the profit, but we will, of course, stop the loss in the future. We firstly aim to stop the loss of the company, not just focusing on the amount of the profit that we would like to get. So for those SE, I really hope that everyone can be, providing the moral support to each other and hanging there, not to give up. I really believe that the government should come in and support the social enterprises by buying the products or services from social enterprises. This way, we really make the social enterprises sustain. However, the government needs to ensure that their support is not just a charity. It's not just only one-time purchasing. It should be ongoing. I believe that this way, it really can change the country, can really solve the social problems, and can also support the social enterprises. I really wish it happened. And these are my thoughts. In case if you have any questions, please raise your hand or type your questions in the chat box. Due to the time limitation, I will summarize the points as follows. The first one is about the problems or the challenges that each social enterprise is facing. The first one is about along the way, you will face doubt from many people. The solution, the interesting one, is that working more on the research to understand the problems that the organization is tackling with. It's like Eric Defiers mentioned that it's really important to understand the stakeholders that you're working with. Since we mentioned we focus on inclusive growth, so it's really important to understand the stakeholders. We need to understand our business as well. And the second one is about having plan B. Not only the social enterprise, but normal business. It's not easy to survive in this situation. So it's really important to have the plan B as a backup plan, just in case that the business is not working well as planned. And the last one is how to scale the business. That Recycler, Tamturkit, both focusing on. Just like Tamturkit mentioned that what might work is that showcasing one or two successful projects. For example, like organic product from Tamturkit or decreasing the burn rate of the farmers from the fire. With these two showcases, for example, it might be easier to attract more support, since it's proved that the model is quite successful. It might inspire other people to follow. And the last one is about the opportunity. In case you're from the government sector or the corporate sector, even big or small, you can also support social enterprises by purchasing their products or services. This way, SE Thailand might come in. Since I have received gift from Social Enterprise Thailand, which is products from several social enterprises, This way could be a starting point for the government or the corporate sectors to start helping the social enterprises by purchasing their products. The second one might be about having a mapping of the stakeholders. Once we see the big picture, the solution might, just pop up to see the relation between each other. Lastly, for those who are social enterprises, what you could do is from one example from Earth, is that focusing on the purpose of the business, why you are doing this in the first place, since along the way you will have many doubts. You need to ensure that you stick to what you believe. Moreover, you really need to create the impact. You might need support from others. For example, like mentors. Good mentors might help you to see the big picture, getting more network, more partners. Lastly, if you still have doubts about the inclusive growth, inclusive business, please start your own business, start action, or start your support. So today's session is pretty much about here. Let's go back to SC Thailand part.